Hi Aslam class, welcome to your computing lesson for today. Let me just move this back so there's a bit more room for me to talk to you guys. Last week in computing, we were looking at making rules for e-safety and how to stay safe when we're using online platforms, such as the internet itself, when you play online gaming. And we were talking about the risks and the dangers that are out there. Okay, it's I don't want to scare you guys, but there are risks and dangers out there when we go online, and what happens is some of us sometimes forget that, just because we're just sitting at a screen, you're in your own home, that risk doesn't feel real. Okay, I assure you the risks are real, and that's why it's so important that we stay safe and we follow the rules and guidance of e-safety. So well done for you for making them posters, or some of your posters were brilliant, and some of you added things that I didn't even mention in the video, so that was really good to see that. So keep the work coming in on Tapestry. Last week I did hint a little bit about peer pressure, and peer pressure is what we're going to be looking at in today's lesson. So I'm going to share the what's going on? Pressing the wrong buttons. Right, we're going on to my screen now, and hopefully you should be able to see my screen. And today is all about understanding what peer pressure is, and we're going to relate that peer pressure to online learning. Online learning using the internet. We are doing online learning. So we're looking at computing, what peer pressure is, and how we can relate that to e-safety. That's what I was trying to say. We got there in the end. So what do we think peer pressure means? I want you to have a little think about it, okay? If you want to, maybe look on an online dictionary or a hardcore dictionary book and have a look. Look at the two words, peer, and look at the word pressure, and try to come up with a definition for peer pressure. Some of you may have actually experienced peer pressure already, and probably most of you have. Some of you may have had the peer pressure on you. Some of you may have been part of the pressure rising. Okay? So you can see in this picture here that there's a figure in the middle surrounded by other people, okay? And you can see that this person in the middle maybe looks like they're feeling a little bit distressed, okay? And because everyone around them is maybe trying to get him to do something. And that's what we mean by peer pressure. It's when people you know encourage you to do something even if you don't want to do it. So when we read that, it can also be, you're influenced by other people. So it works two ways. You have negative peer pressure, and then we have positive peer pressure. Okay, and this definition covers both. All right, we're going to look at both types of peer pressure today. Peer pressure can be when a group of people are telling you to do something. Do this, do that. Go on. You can do it. And you're not too keen. Okay, you don't really want to do it, but then you think, oh well, if everyone else is doing it, I'll do it. That means you have caved into peer pressure. It could be that you see somebody in your class who talks about playing a certain game online all the time, and you're sitting there going, oh, I want to do that, I want to do that, I want to do that. So peer pressure can be direct and it can be indirect as well, okay? Let's move on. Now, in these slides, we're meeting two children, okay? And they use an app called Quick Snap, okay? And here we've got a picture of Ruby, and Ruby is saying this: I sent a quick snap picture to Jazz last night. I don't know who made it, but it was hilarious. Jazz didn't reply, which is pretty annoying. She's supposed to be my best friend. What's the matter with her? Okay, so let's take a moment. You have a read through that again. And then we've got two questions. Number one, why is Ruby cross? And number two, why didn't Jazz respond straight away? Have a little think about it, talk to someone about it. Now, we've probably all seen videos online, that things that make us laugh. You may have typed in something on YouTube to see people falling over, or people doing a funny dance, or looking at animals doing funny and crazy things. And haha, yeah, it makes us all laugh. And some of you may have even know of people who see these videos and then forward them on, all pictures, to other people. And here, that's what Ruby has done. But her best mate, Jazz, hasn't responded to her message. So Ruby feels a little bit annoyed. And she may be feeling annoyed because that's her best friend. And her best friend hasn't spoken to her about this picture. She hasn't replied. And it's really annoyed her. She's like, well, I've sent her a message. I'm speaking to her. Why is she not speaking to me? So that's maybe why reason Ruby is cross. She could be cross because her friend, Jazz, didn't respond straight away. And it could be that she's thinking, well, if I spoke to her in school, this is just like her ignoring me. Okay, so she feels that maybe Jazz has ignored her. So that's why Ruby is cross, because they're supposed to be good friends. Now, let's think about why Jazz didn't respond straight away. There could be several reasons. Maybe Jazz's phone was out of battery. Maybe Jazz was busy doing her homework. Maybe Jazz has rules where at a certain time she's not allowed to use electronic devices at home. Right? Maybe Jazz didn't respond straight away because maybe she was in bed asleep, or maybe she was having dinner. Okay, we don't know what time this was exactly sent, but there are all valid reasons as to why she didn't respond straight away. Ruby is very cross. Now let's hear from Jazz's point of view. Okay, and Jazz says here, Ruby was really weird at school today. So this is the day after. She wouldn't talk to me and had lunch with other girls in our class. She told me it wasn't fair that I didn't respond to the quick snap because we were best friends. So let's have a look at the questions at the bottom. Is Ruby being fair to Jazz? Is Jazz being fair? Should Jazz have replied, even if it was to say she didn't like the photo or she didn't find it funny? What do you think? Okay, you've had to pause the video maybe and have a little think about it. But here we've got a situation now where, because Jazz didn't respond straight away, Ruby is now talking to other girls in the class and excluding Jazz. Okay? And this is where peer pressure comes into it. Jazz is saying she didn't respond straight away. She hasn't given a reason as to why she didn't. But in this situation, you should be thinking that Ruby is being very unfair to Jazz. Okay, if you were talking face to face, you would expect a response straight away. But the difference here, you're not speaking face to face. And there may be some factors playing here as to why Jazz could not respond to the message straight away. If she didn't like the photograph, yeah, she could have responded saying, oh, I don't find that funny. Not a problem. But there must have been a reason as to why she didn't respond. And what Ruby is now doing, she's now excluding Jazz from her group. She's having lunch with other people in the class. She's not talking really to Jazz. She's being really weird with Jazz. And this kind of behavior is then putting pressure onto Jazz. It's putting pressure onto Jazz so that Jazz uses this photo snap app, or quick snap. And that she's pressurizing in her into answering every single message all the time. And that is what we call peer pressure. Okay, and there is peer pressure being played here, and Ruby is the one putting the peer pressure on. Because her actions are making Jazz feel that she needs to do what Ruby tells her to do. She feels that because she didn't respond straight away, she now has to respond straight away to every single message. So there is an element of peer pressure going on here, and it's Ruby putting the peer pressure onto Jazz. Now, the next slide we're going to be looking at is the parents' point of views. And Jazz's foster dad, okay, says, in our house, we switch off all our devices by 8 o'clock. It's a family rule. We all do it. Ruby's mum We don't have any rules for the use of devices in our house. So very two different households, very two different rules. You may have your own opinion on whose rules are correct or whatever, but they are the rules that are in them households. So the reason why Jazz couldn't respond to Ruby's message is because they have a rule. By 8 o'clock, that is their rule, okay? And they have all devices switched off. Ruby's mum doesn't have any rules. And that may be the case for some of you guys. And look, it's absolutely fine to have different rules in different households, but you have to respect the rules that have been put on. So really, what should happen in this case, Ruby should, or Jazz should say to Ruby, look, all our devices are off at 8 o'clock. You know that, okay? And instead of Ruby going, oh, well, you need to break that rule, that's peer pressure. What she should be saying is, okay, that's fine, I understand. You can't message after 8 o'clock. And that applies to maybe some of us at school. Some of us at school, I hear you sometimes, oh yeah, I'm going to be playing at 8 o'clock or 9 o'clock tonight. Do you want to meet me online? And I'm thinking in the back of my head, some of you are probably in bed by that time. And so there is peer pressure going on, and you may not realize you're doing it. And I'm not saying that you guys do it in a horrible way, but things just like that, sort of saying to someone, oh, I'm going to be playing. It happens to me sometimes. Oh, you're going to play football tonight. And I know that my football finishes at 10 o'clock. And I know that it's difficult from, it's not fair really if I go out twice a week to play football from like 5 o'clock till 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock at night. And I've made a rule to myself to say, no, I'm going to stay at home, I'm going to help out. And when my mates say, are you going to come, you're going to come, you're going to play football, not being horrible, but there is that element of pressure because you're being asked to do something and you really shouldn't be doing it. So that is, well, you don't really want to do it. So that is peer pressure. And in this situation, Jazz is following the rules of her family home. And Ruby is not respecting that. And because Ruby has now, because she hasn't responded straight away, Ruby is now sort of putting peer pressure on her, isn't she? By hanging out with a new group, being weird to Jazz, all because she didn't respond straight away. And that may make Jazz feel that she needs to break the rules that her family have put in place. And that's peer pressure. Now, peer pressure, obviously this kind of peer pressure may be negative because it may encourage Jazz to break the family rules. Always respect your rules. That's the golden rule. Even if someone else has got something, or even if someone else is telling you, oh, come online, play this game, you follow the rules that your parents put in place, please. Because if you cave into peer pressure in this case, let's say Jazz did cave into peer pressure and she did break the family rule by having her device on after 8 o'clock, her family would be very disappointed in her. Yeah, so it's all about respect. Respect the rules that you have in place, and it doesn't matter what other people have put in place. That's that's their rules that they follow. Okay, so you need to respect each other's rules. Now, your challenges for today. Challenge number 1: write down a definition of peer pressure and give an example of peer pressure. It could be an example that you've experienced before, or it could be one that you've made up. Challenge number 2, think back to the slides that we've just been through. So you may want to go through, have a look at them. Is anyone applying peer pressure? If so, who does and what effect does it have? And then number 3, imagine you're Jazz, pretend you're Jazz, and write a diary entry about how she feels about Ruby's actions. So how has Ruby made Jazz feel over this incident? Now, before I finish, I did say that there are 2 types of peer pressure. We have negative and we have positive. Negative peer pressure is things like, if your group of mates said to you, right, okay, we're gonna, or let's say you kick a ball over somebody's fence in your back garden and your friends are saying to you, oh yeah, come on, just jump over the fence, just do it, just jump over the fence and you'll be back, get your ball back, it's not a problem. That kind of peer pressure is negative because what you're doing by jumping over somebody's fence, you're breaking the law. Okay, so no, that's wrong. You don't do that. And plus you may hurt yourself jumping over it. So we don't do it. Okay, but that peer pressure of everyone else egging you on to try and do it could be negative. could be the case that you're playing a game and everyone at school is saying to you, oh, you got to sign on, you got to play this game, you got to play this game. And you sitting there going, yeah, but this game is like a 16 or an 18. I know I'm not allowed to play this game, so I know I shouldn't be playing it. But everyone else in the class is playing it, and it may make, and it puts pressure on you, and you may think, oh, I might have to download it. I'm going to have to beg my dad or my mum to download it for me. Okay, so that's kind of negative peer pressure. Positive peer pressure, okay, and in this picture here, I think it sums it up quite well. Peer pressure can actually be positive, and it can actually be quite good. So in the sense of, you know, if you let's say you're learning how to swim and you're in the swimming pool and you're swimming along and you're near the end and people are going, come on, you can do it, keep on going, keep on going. You may find it difficult, but people are encouraging you. So positive peer pressure is like encouragement, okay? And so peer pressure has two sides to it. We've got the negative side and we've got the positive side. Positive side is really good. The negative side, you just need to be aware of it and you need to make sure that you respect the rules that are put in place, especially when it comes to online stuff and online apps. You may know children in the classroom who have things that you don't. They may have Facebook, they may have YouTube, they may have WhatsApp, they may have this, they may have that, they may play this, they may play that. But it's okay that you don't play them games. It's okay that you don't have that app. Because at the end of the day, you're respecting rules that are being put in place for you. All right? So it doesn't matter what anyone else is doing, you do what you know is right. And there will be times when peer pressure does hit you, but just respect what rules are in place. Okay, and every rule may differ slightly. Okay, and it doesn't matter what rules you have, you respect the rules that are put in place by your respected adults. Okay, hopefully that makes it clear about what peer pressure is, and hopefully you know that, you know, it is okay, even if some people may have Facebook or whatever, and they're saying, oh, you've got to sign on, got to sign on. Always check with your parents first to make sure it's okay, right? And you don't always have to do what other people are doing. You be yourself, right? That's the main message, really. And, you know, hopefully that helps out with understanding what peer pressure is. And like I say, it can be bad if the pressure putting on you to do something is really bad. For example, if people were encouraging you to break the law, I mean, that's really bad negative peer pressure. But if someone just says to you, oh, I'm playing this game tonight, are you able to log on? That's, you know, you might be pressured to log on. That is peer pressure as well. And sometimes people don't know that we're doing it, but sometimes people do know. And that's when people do know that they're applying peer pressure, that's when we go into the realms of sort of maybe bullying and things like that. But you know, that's a completely different topic altogether. Okay, so hopefully you enjoyed that video. I'm going to sign off now, and I will see you later on in the next videos. Bye.